Welcome to today's Global Connections program. I'm Bill Miller. The main purpose of Global Connections is to focus attention upon international issues that impact people in Frankfort, Kentucky to Frankfurt, Germany, and from Lima, Ohio to Lima, Peru. My guest today is a person who's been very involved in one of the thorniest issues affecting all of the countries at the United Nations, all 192 of them, and that is the situation in Darfur. Nick Clooney became familiar nationwide in 1994 when he began introducing films on the American Movie Classics cable TV channel. He was already well known in the Cincinnati area, where he's appeared in many forms, working as a radio host and a TV news anchor, hosting an early morning TV talk show, The Nick Clooney Show. Also, he has anchored at KNBC in Los Angeles, and he's written extensively for various newspapers, especially the Cincinnati Post. Nick Clooney is the father of the famous actor George Clooney and the brother of singer Rosemary Clooney. Nick Clooney, welcome to today's Global Connections program.
Thank you very much. Glad to be here. Obviously, I need all the introduction I can get. So
we all do, don't we?
You gave me plenty of it. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You and your son George are involved in probably one of the greatest humanitarian efforts underway, and that's focusing the limelight on the tragedy that is taking place in Darfur. We're going to be talking about that in great detail in just a moment, but let me just ask you, just briefly describe Darfur. Where is it located? What is the relationship between Darfur and it's Sudan? It's obviously in Sudan, we think, but what are some of the physical aspects of Darfur?
Yes, of course, the Sudan geographically is the largest nation on the African continent. Darfur is the westernmost region of Sudan. Sudan, long before it achieved independence, was a troubled area. Since independence of 40, 50, 60 years ago, it has been in constant turmoil, including the North-South Sudanese Civil War, which we all know a great deal about because the United States was instrumental in causing a ceasefire, or at least negotiating a ceasefire between those two. In more recent years, the Darfuris, who are also incidentally Muslims, they have come face to face with some very serious problems with their own government in Khartoum. Some have called it ethnic cleansing. Some have used the word genocide, which is very difficult to use because it triggers many things. For instance, the United Nations, they're very careful about the use of that word. But whatever it is, we know that hundreds of thousands have died before their time, and we know pretty precisely that 2.5 million people in that arid land, that sub-Saharan but very nearly Saharan area, are now living on the kindness of strangers, particularly the United Nations and the concomitant humanitarian organizations, perhaps 80 of them, who are trying to take care of the people in Darfur who are helpless. They are subject not only to the problems with the Janjaweed, the devil riders, who many of us believe are taken care of, that is to say, are facilitated by the Khartoum government, but of course the rebel governments themselves are creating many problems for their Darfuri compatriots.
They certainly are. Now, you and George produced a documentary, A Journey to Darfur, which is a wonderful documentary.
Thank you.
But we're going to show just about a 45-second clip of it, of you giving an introduction to the situation in Darfur.
Sure.
Darfur. More than 2 million lives hanging on a thread. Abandoned by their government, attacked by brutal militias. These people face a grim fate. At least 200,000 have died so far. I'm Nick Clooney. I'm a reporter. After reading shocking news stories coming out of Darfur, my son George and I decided to do whatever we could to get this story on the front page.
The United States has called it genocide. For you, it's called ethnic cleansing. But make no mistake, it is the first genocide of the 21st century. And if it continues unchecked, it will not be the last.
Nick, how did you and George get involved in Darfur? That is 8,000 miles away. It's a very, very difficult area of the world. George Clooney is very busy, obviously, making movies and doing a lot of other activities. You're very involved in many activities. How did the two of you get involved in this?
I've been a newsman all my life, in one way or another. And my son and daughter were raised in a newsman's household. When we talk to one another, that's what we talk about, the current events and how they affect us and what the interrelationship is. When we heard from fine reporters including Nicholas Kristof of the New York Times and Samantha Power, and many others who were going to Darfur, the Darfur region of Sudan, and trying to tell the world what was going on there, risking their lives to bring us the story. It wasn't getting any traction, Bill. Nobody cared about it. They were getting the story in some very influential publications, but it was not making the TV news, it was not making the radio news, and it was not getting coverage from the wire services. So George and I, having talked about this for several months, right after he won his Oscar in 2006, he called me the next morning and said, "Pop, I'll never have any more juice than this. Why don't we go over there and see if we can show a spotlight?" And he says, "You go as the reporter, I'll take the pictures, and we'll see if we can bring it back and raise the temperature on this story." We have, in large measure, failed in doing that. We had some small bubble of interest when we first came back. George has gone to China, he has gone to Egypt, he has gone to the UN, he has gone back to Darfur in recent weeks and months, about which we'll speak, I'm sure, later, and back to the region, Chad, where we went before, and all around that region in an attempt to find out as much as we could about the story, bring it back, and we were lucky enough to get it on all the television newscasts and on programs like the morning news programs and Oprah and all the others. All of that was because of George's celebrity credit card, but we were able to let more people know about it than knew before. This is bipartisan. When we came back, certainly Senator Obama, Senator Brownback, people on both sides of the aisle were, and the president himself, were very vocal in their intentions to do what they could. But thus far, we have all failed. The people are still dying.
The problem is still there.
You bet.
Exactly. That's still the problem. Now, we're still trying to wrestle with what exactly is causing the problem. We've heard there may be oil in Darfur. It may be that the climate change is causing drought to occur in Darfur. There's a racism problem, perhaps, between the Arabs and the blacks in that area of the world. What do you see as some of the major problems contributing to this?
It's very difficult for me to get away from what one of the elders said to me when I was talking to him with our translator, Mohammed, and I said, "Tell me, grandfather, why do they want to kill you? Why are they driving you from your home? Why are they killing 9 of your own family?" Which he had just told me they had done. And he said, "It is racism, and I can prove it." He said, "I am Sudanese." And he pointed toward Khartoum, obviously talking about Omar Hassan al-Bashir. And he said, "That man is Sudanese. I am Muslim. That man is Muslim. But I am African, and that man is Arab. He hates me. He wants me dead." That's a simplistic view, but there can be no question that the deepest feeling the Darfuris themselves have was spoken to me by that man.